Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to Sunday morning and the old cookbook show. Today we're going to do a recipe out of a cookbook that I don't bring out very often. This is The Accomplished Cook, written by Robert May. First published in 1660. My copy, this book was printed in 1685. So that makes it old. It makes it old. Now, this particular copy has been rebound at some point. Someone rebound it, and I guess when they rebound it, there had been a couple of pages missing, and so they've replaced those pages with, they've printed it on paper that is almost kind of the same or supposed to look the same. I wish they'd left those pages out. I wish they had rebound the book and just left the missing pages out, because that tells part of the story of why are those pages missing. And I think I know why those pages are missing. It's because they contain pictures or drawings of how you would decorate pastries and pies. And so I'm sure that someone in 17 whatever ripped them out of the book and tacked them to the wall over their workspace so they could make it. Now, Robert May was born into servitude, and some of the information is a little hard. You hear multiple accounts of his life, but at some point when he was very young, the lady of the house where his parents worked sent him to France to learn how to be a cook. And then he came back to England and he apprenticed in London for a number of years before coming back to work in these stately manor homes. And this cookbook reflects his time in France. There's quite a few recipes in here that I would call French cooking, totally right up. A lot of the other cooking reflects how you would eat at these stately manor homes in the 1600s. It incorporates brand new ingredients from the New World, from this part of the world. Turkeys is one for sure. I think there's a potato recipe in here as well. And it also includes recipes from other parts of Europe and beyond. So today we're going to make something called a Turkish dish of meat. I'm going to read the recipe to you first. There's a reason I don't pull this out very often. First, it's old. And second, a lot of the recipes in here just do not translate to the way we eat in 2026. They do not translate to the methods that we use. A lot of the ingredients do not translate. There's ingredients in here that you just can't get. There's ingredients in here that are banned, that nowhere on the planet are you allowed to have them. So there's ingredients in here also where the particular animal has gone extinct. So you're just not going to find it. Anyway, we'll get to a Turkish dish of meat. Take an interlarded piece of beef, cut it into thin slices, and you'll notice that this uses the long S. Looks like an F, but it's an S. Cut it into thin slices and put it into a pot that hath a close cover, or stewing pan. Then put it into a good quantity of clean picked rice, skin it very well, and put it into a quantity of whole pepper, 2 or 3 whole onions, and let this boil very well. Then take out the onions and dish it on sippets. The thicker it is, the better. So we need a little bit of translation here. You're going to take a fatty piece of beef. The piece of beef that I have is not terribly fatty. You'll notice that the only ingredient that he gave a number for was 2 or 3 whole onions. And you don't know how much beef or rice is supposed to go with that. That's common in his recipes. He'll give the amount for one thing, and from that you have to interpolate every other ingredient, the amounts. So, we've got some beef. It's not terribly interlarded. Interlarded means fatty. There's fat in the meat. One of the things about this book is that when this book was written in 1660, for sure, there were butchers. Definitely were butchers. Butchers had a butcher's guild since about the 1300s. Let's just say 1300, thereabouts, all disputable. So there were butchers working, but a lot of the cuts of beef that we think of today as standard cuts, or the way that animals are butchered, it wasn't like that then. They had different methodology. They use different cuts. So we're going to put it into a pan that has a close cover. Clean picked rice. The rice that they were using, who knows? There will be people who say I should be using brown rice because in the oldie times, everything was worse. Everything was more raw. Definitely, by the time this book was published, people were eating white rice. People were eating refined white rice. When this book was published, the first cash crops of plantation-grown rice from the United States was making its way back to England, or sorry, from the colonies, from the Carolina colonies at that point. It wasn't the United States. It was making its way back to England, and about a decade after this book was published, the United Kingdom was awash in the amount of rice that was being produced under slave labor in the Carolinas. So I am using a less processed rice, but not totally less processed. I picked it over. I'm supposed to skin it very well. I'm thinking that's the amount of water. I'm supposed to bring the water level up above the rice and the meat. I don't know. I think that's what that means. And it's completely open to interpretation. So let's get started. In goes the beef, sliced pretty thin. Next, a quantity of rice. Two or three whole onions. And a quantity of whole peppercorns. Okay, so, I don't know, is that a quantity of black peppercorns? What is a quantity of black peppercorns? Is it an imperial quantity? It's certainly not a metric quantity because metric hadn't been invented yet. Anyway, so pepper is the only spice. There's no salt. There's no other spices. This is a broken telephone recipe. There's no indication that Robert May ever was in Turkey. So he's come across this dish somewhere in his travels. When he was in France, maybe there was another cook who was making it, who had spoken to someone in Turkey or who had been to Turkey. Maybe he encountered it in London, same sort of thing. Someone who had been to Turkey, traveled to Turkey, learned something from Turkey, read a letter from someone who had been in Turkey, and made this interpretation. The lack of spice is interesting, but elsewhere in this book, he does make mention of using Middle Eastern spices. So he's aware of the other spices that are being used in sort of the Middle East. And I'm going to call Turkey the Middle East in this area. But he leaves it out. And so, I mean, this is how food travels. Broken telephone. There are so many recipes that I come across in these old cookbooks where you kind of look at it and go, where did that come from and how did that name happen? And then when you research it back, you see that inflection point where something changed and this recipe came into being. Now, the direction here is to skin it very well, and I'm assuming that means to cover with water. I've done a lot of research on that, and it's kind of ambiguous. I'm going to say that's skinned very well. Lid on. Now, it says to let this boil very well. Got to imagine that, to bring it to a rolling boil and boil it until the rice is cooked through. In the 1660s, I don't know what kind of fire options Robert May had. He would have been working in the giant houses of the rich. So there would have been the big hearth, open fire for roasting meats and stuff like that. And I have to imagine they've got a spot on the side where there would be heat from below for him. For other people cooking at home, it would have just been put the pot beside the fire or over the fire or on top of the coals. Maybe even they had one, it's called a spider, and it's got the little legs on it, and you put it in. Who knows? There could have been so many different ways that they were cooking this. I'm going to put this on 7 on my cooktop. I'm going to bring it up to a boil. I'm going to watch it very closely, and we'll see what happens. Now, it says to take out the onions and serve it on sippets. Now, a sippet is toast. So, we have a Turkish dish of meat.
Hey, friends. I'm just in time for the lecture.
It's got a little bit of beef. It's got some rice. It's got some onion. And you serve it on toast. Now, when I go for a shawarma, I have a little bit of meat, a little bit of rice, a little bit of onion, usually tabbouleh and
Pickles.
tahini. I put the pickled on it. Yeah, the pickled turnip, and then it's served on a flatbread.
Okay.
So for 1680s or 60s, it was probably in the first one even 1660s. Not so bad. But
So you have great hopes for this.
no,
Oh.
no, because it has no spices. But I have no sippets, so we're just gonna put it out on a plate, and we're going to taste a Turkish dish
Okay.
of meat.
Well, you may have also, maybe that's the part that is inherently understood, but you didn't get, was that it's supposed to have,
No, it only says pepper. And
oh, it doesn't
meanwhile-
say, but maybe you're supposed to put pickles on it after and all these other things on it after that.
maybe, but judging by the recipe, it just says sippets.
Okay. I'm just
Now
trying.
imagine 1680, you're in a giant house. Some rich guy, the footmen come out with these plates of food, and they tell you that it's a Turkish dish.
You know,
And you've only ever been to Lancashire, and you're like, ooh.
fair enough.
And we're
Fair
eating it
enough.
with a spoon because in 1680s England,
Spoons were
you
all
would
that?
not have a fork.
No.
And you wouldn't have had a knife. And if you did have a knife, it was blunted so that you didn't stab the person. And I'm not joking about that. That was an actual thing. They did take away knives because people were stabbing each other at dinner.
Okay. I feel like I'm missing out because I don't have onion with it, though.
It says to throw the onion away.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
It says to throw the onion away.
They're crazy people. I'm going to put some onion with it. I think that'll help.
Okay.
It is pretty bland.
It is pretty bland. Yes.
Definitely, a couple shots of hot sauce before I eat it later in the day.
But, I mean, that's the 1600s. That is the 1600s. I would much rather eat that.
And we can have that next, can we?
Well, we're going to taste that next. I think that was on yesterday's show on the channel. That may already be live, even though
So
we
we're
haven't
having a
tasted
way
it.
back time moment?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I need to make some kind of special sound effect for that. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Julie's right. Some hot sauce. A bit of spice mix.
Yeah. I think with the various pickles, chutneys, etc., we can save it for a decent meal. Because it's not. I mean, it's not awful. It's just bland.
It's just bland. So, there you have it. A Turkish dish of meat from 1685 from an English cookbook.
I like the technique though.
Yes.
Just throw in some different spices.
That actually, from a cooking standpoint, worked really well.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
spice it differently, and that would be kind of amazing.
One dish wonder.
Yep. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.
Yeah, like a 5 spice, like the various hirsute.
Actually,
What's it called? Hirsute?
oh, Ras El Hanout.
I'll say it.
So this, I was trying out this, and it's called Turkish spices. I put that in that. So if you had sprinkled a tablespoon of that
Yeah,
in with the meat,
that would have been great.
that would have been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you go.
It's a method. That's what it is. It's a method, and you just
Good
spice it
method.
differently. Yeah.
And yet I'm still eating it, so there you go.